very nice to have such a diverse group today. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Nice to have you all here and representing all of the different wonderful places you come from.
It's true. The way we like, right? Very international.
Exactly. Wonderful. Well, thanks. You can all feel free to keep putting that in the chat because, of course, we would love to know where you're joining from and where you're from and what your plans are. We're going to go ahead and get started because it's already 4:02 and we have a lot to talk about. So let's get the show on the road. I will start by just running over this housekeeping slide. Just so that you know, there will be a Q&A at the end. So we'll have a few minutes at the end so you can ask your questions. There's a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen or the top of your screen, depending on how you have it set up. But in the Zoom screen, there's a Q&A. Feel free to put your questions in there. That makes it so that Louise and I can keep them nice and organized and have a record of them. In case we don't get to your question, don't worry. You can always send us an email and let us know later as well. So I will also put the email address here in the chat so that you can let us know if there's any questions after the meeting. One other thing to know is the session is being recorded. It will be available to watch later on YouTube. So if there's anything that goes too quickly or you have more questions about, you can always rewatch it. And you'll also get the slides later. Also be aware that because it's being recorded, we have your permission for that because of this in a webinar format. That's you're not in the video, of course, so that's not as much of an issue, but always good to know when things are being recorded that you're participating. All right, and off we go. So start off today. We will introduce ourselves, then you know a little bit why Louise and I are presenting today, besides that we love presenting together. We'll also be talking about common contract structures and types in the Netherlands, and the typical secondary benefits that come along with your contracts and what you can expect. And then, of course, ending with the Q&A. So here we go. I will introduce myself. My name is Aubrey de Wilde. That usually confuses people because Aubrey is a name that no Dutch person has ever heard of, and de Wilde is a very common Dutch name. And so I'm actually from the United States and married to a Dutch guy, so that makes the whole thing complete, I guess, for why my name is so confusing. I came from the US in 2014, so I've been here for basically 10 years now, minus 1 year when I went home in between. I came originally to do volunteer work, thought it was going to be temporary. My mom thought it was going to be temporary. And then one thing led to another. I met my now husband, and now I've been back here for 7.5 years after the original temporary plan. Give you kind of a fun idea of what some things were that took me a while to get used to in the Netherlands. One of the big things was the communication style. Where I come from, first of all, the US, but also kind of more the Western side of the US. Direct communication is not very common, at least not in my circles that I grew up in. So that was a big adjustment coming to the Netherlands and people just saying exactly what they thought and letting it be that way. I have learned to love it, I must say, because I was just recently back in the US and I kept thinking about my whole family. Come on, just say what you need, just say what you want. We can communicate, we can be honest with each other and still be kind and love each other. And so that's something I have learned since being here, but also appreciate. Another thing is the cultural nuances. I've noticed that there's a lot of things that you take for granted in your own culture. And when you move into a new culture, those things are different. And for me, that's been a lot of the little things, but also some of the big things. For instance, thinking my in-laws were always mad at me because they never said anything positive, but actually that's just how it is here in Dutch. Basically, if nothing is wrong, then you don't say anything. And if something is wrong, then you're honest about it. In Utah, where I come from, it's if something is wrong, we don't talk about it. But if something is going well, then we're going to be very over the top. So it took me a while to get used to flipping my view on that. But as I said, I've been here a long time. I do really love living in the Netherlands and I love the culture. I really love the language. It's been a fun thing to learn. And I also appreciate the honesty now. It took a while, but now I appreciate the direct communication and the honesty of it all. And I also really appreciate the loyalty of the Dutch culture. Once you make a friend in the Netherlands, then they're your friend for life. That's just how that works, which is really wonderful to me. And I love the diversity. That was a happy surprise for me. And it's been extra nice since working at Untouchables. That's been a really wonderful thing to even get to see more of the diversity. But the Netherlands is actually a great place for internationals. And there's a lot of diversity here. When I first arrived, I thought it would be windmills and wooden shoes. And it turns out that it's a lot more than that. And there's a lot of cultures coming together here, which is really wonderful to see. I'll answer a quick question that I saw coming through. I saw someone said, what is your language proficiency in Dutch now? Wow, what is my English language proficiency? It is, I speak fluently now, so that's really nice. It's nice to be able to go back and forth. In fact, I think it's affecting my English negatively. So now I don't speak any language well, I just speak a combination of both things. So we'll see how this goes. And nice to see, Laurie, that you're also from the US and you've seen some of the same things. That's fun to see. Well, I will pass it over to Luis then to introduce yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So, hello everyone. My name is Luis Gustavus Neto, now Van Rauter. I'm 32 years old. I'm from São Paulo in Brazil. And I came to the Netherlands around 6 years ago. I came here just on holidays to celebrate my graduation. And here I met who is now my husband. Yeah, very happy about that. And back in Brazil, my background is in the commercial sector, marketing, and also diversity and inclusion. I was a speaker over there. And here in the Netherlands, I had the chance to, wrap it up everything what I had in my background in Brazil, put everything together, and then I became a recruiter. I never thought that I would become a recruiter in my life, but I love this so much. And I found also Untouchables in my path. Great company with great mission, helping internationals to find a job in the Netherlands. We know how it feels. Mostly of our team at Untouchables, we are internationals. So we know exactly how is it to be in the other side. And for us, it's a pleasure to help you guys and to change a little bit of experiences. And what I like the most about the Netherlands, it's hard to say because I like a lot of things, like the weather and the food. Just not just kidding. But the Netherlands for me is about freedom. It's about the freedom of being who you are. Here you can see a lot of internationals, people dressing up and people expressing themselves the way they are. And we really should appreciate that because nowadays, especially in a lot of countries, people are not allowed to be who they are. So for me, to be here means that, like, you're allowed to be who you want to be yourself. And even I know that you guys already know exactly what Untouchable is about. Now I want to give a little bit of a pitch of Untouchable, so you have a big picture, in case you don't know, of how we work and what is Untouchables about. Basically, we are a recruitment agency. We have more than 27 years in the market. We are the pioneer of the Netherlands, and our job is to help companies, our clients, and candidates multilingual to find the best match. We have a lot of agencies that take care of the Dutchies. We focus on the international multilingual. And our vacancies, they are more related to office and home office-based positions. So we do marketing, management, logistics, finance, and multiple others. And we have 4 offices in the Netherlands, being in Den Haag, Eindhoven, Amsterdam, and Utrecht, where I'm based right now. And today, we are going to give you guys one overview about how is it to work with agencies in the Netherlands. Because for sure, you have heard about recruitment agencies, employment agencies, but what's the difference? What are the benefits of working with us? So let's dive in. The first thing I would like to highlight, why is that so common to work with agencies in the Netherlands? First of all, when I just arrived in the Netherlands, I was thinking that was just a matter of translating my CV and everything would be okay. I was just translating from Portuguese into English or Dutch and everything would be fine. But it's not like that, guys. Here, the competition is real. So it's important that you really pay attention. We have even in our YouTube channel, also in Instagram, a lot of tips and tricks about CV, how we can translate, with terms you need to use, very updated stuff. So you guys can really go through it and do the best you can. And also for support you, we are here because the employment agencies and the recruitment agencies, we are the bridge between you and your next employer. So it's important that you can use the service. It's for free anyways. So you guys can always get tips, tricks, and we can always guide you through the Dutch market. And now I'll tell you guys a little bit about the recruitment agency. untouchables. So we are focused on the international multilingual, for sure, the non-Dutch speakers, but there are also a lot of other kind of agencies. Some are more niche, they are focused on the finance, IT, and have multiple others. But we, for example, we focus more in the quality than in quantity, because our clients, when they come to us to look for candidates, they are looking for experts. Because, for example, me, when I translate my CV in Brazil, we do like generalist. Like with my CV, my old CV, I could apply for any role and I could maybe get an invite for customer service, for management, for marketing. It was very general. But here you must highlight, if you want, for example, go for recruitment or for marketing, you must highlight your skills in recruitment or must highlight your skills in marketing. It's good that you can niche a little bit your profile. So when the company go look for you, you're gonna think, oh, this person will have all the skills what I'm looking for. So it's very important that your CV is very tailored. Another thing that we do for companies, we provide the whole recruitment process, from the search into the match, into the interview, into the reporting. So all the recruitment parts we provide for the company. For the candidate side, since you register in our website until your contract meeting, if you get hired, we take care of you. We guide you into all the process. And besides that, we also provide some services, some events like today, for example, we have some events online, offline. So it's important that you are always keeping track of it, keep updating, doing network, because this for sure increases your chances to work with us and also to get a job. Another thing is the Autism Bureau. Autism Bureau is an employment agency. They work a little bit similar the way we work, but they are a little bit more, for example, for temporary jobs. They do like if there is a small project or sick leave, maternity leave. So they are more focused on that. They also have some production roles, also some more generalists, but they can also be a little bit more niche. But it's just a matter that we go more for the long-term specialized people, and they do a little bit more generalist short-term. But in the end, they provide also the recruitment part. They do also payrolling, HR consultancy for companies, and everything else. And besides that, we also have some agencies that are focused only in payrolling, and some that are focused only on freelance positions. So and also they have some online platforms that they do only the match. So you go online, register yourself, and you can just use the service as an online platform. And what are the benefits of using it? As I said before, it's for free. So because who gonna pay us is the clients, is the company. So you guys can use all the service, everything for free. And even if you get, for example, one interview with us or with the clients, sometimes can happen that you are rejected in the interview. I know it's hard because I was already also in the other side. I know how is it to be rejected 1, 2, 3, and it's very dismotivating, but you can make the best of it. You can try to understand better what is the feedback so you can improve yourself. Is this my communication? Is this my CV? I did not show myself my skills. What's it about? So don't take it so personal and try to improve yourself. So when you have another chance, you can go and just nail it. And do exactly what you guys are doing at the moment. Participating, subscribe, webinars, events, offline, online, just be there, be seen, improve your network, and I'm sure you can make it. And now I will explain you guys what you need to do to be part of it. Because yeah, you guys can think, guys, it's a little bit complex. How can I make it work? And it's not. Because, for example, at untouchables.nl, we have a very nice portal that our marketing team just create for you guys to make everything more easy for you to apply, and not only apply, but also follow up with your whole process. You can, from the portal, follow everything, all the steps. You start in the registration. So you just go for untouchables.nl in our case, and then you can go to the registration. Then, once you open our page, you're gonna see one beautiful picture with all the features that you can use. Location, language, a sector, so you can play with that and see which roles are gonna pop up for you. Once the roles are there, you can take a look in the job description, and then you can already apply for the jobs. Also, you can activate the job alert that's in the corner. And this, when you activate, you can also get a notification. Once we get a new position, when you post it online, maybe if you are not online that week, if you are on holidays or something, you're going to get a push notification, and then you can be the first one or one of the first to apply for the job, and it for sure also increases your chances. And once you go to the application, it's very easy. You just go to sign in, and then they're going to open a formulaire for you to fill up. There are some boxes that are mandatory to fill up, but some are not mandatory. But please put as much information as you can, because these help us also to find you, because you have the option to apply for the job, but we also have the option to find you. So once I have, for example, a role for my client and I go online to look for candidates, if there are everything filled up, your address, if you have a car, your commuting distance, everything related to your hard skills, soft skills. When I type it down, I can find you very easy. And then instead you call me, I can call you myself to offer you a job. And this would be the best for me and also for you. So take your time to go there and fill the information as much as you can. And once you go to the application process, it's very important that you read everything. Read everything so you don't apply for things that you don't want. Because what happened is sometimes people apply for a lot of roles and maybe it's something that you really don't like to do, and then you lose time in a call and lose our time, your time. So it's important that you take your time, read it well, take a look. Is the commuting distance is good for me? Do I want this job? Do I would travel there, I will be happy to do this job. So it's important that you also pay attention to it. In case you're interested, you can already apply. And besides that, on the side of our roles, there are the contacts of the recruiter. So you can also call us, you can email us, send a motivation letter. Doing a motivation letter is not a loss of your time, because doing it, you're practicing. You know what you're gonna talk. In case I call you, you already wrote down for me exactly what you want to say. So you're gonna train your head in your mind for your pitch, and it for sure increases your chances also to get a job. The second step is the interview. The first step mostly is with us. The interview can be done in person or by Teams. Take around 1 hour. And in this interview, we are going to go in detail about your skills and everything. So we are going to check you all, scan you from the beginning to the end. What you want, what you like, your hobbies, why you want to move to the Netherlands, if you're open to commute, if you have a car, if you travel by public transport, everything gonna be there. And then if there is a match, we are going to introduce you to the client. In case it's not a match, we're going to give you a feedback for sure. And please take it well, ask questions, try to understand so you can make better in the next time. And then once we present you to the company, we're going to create one report about you with everything what we discuss and share with the clients. So now it's the time of the clients to analyze everything if you really have what they are looking for related to your personality, background, and everything. Once the clients say yes, we are going to help you to set the interview with the clients. Before, we always do a preparation. So we send you a document with all the tips and tricks, everything what you must prepare for the meeting, so you go more confident. Some of us will also give you a call before to prepare you, to ask you questions about the company, their services, the product, if it's the case. So you feel more confident to go there and say, okay, I have all the knowledge, I really have the skills, I know my selling points. So it's just a matter to go and get your job. And in case you are hired, you're going to get different kind of contracts. We also going to help you with the negotiation and everything. So that's why I told you guys that we are together from the beginning, from the registration until the hiring process. And now Aubrey will explain you guys a little bit more about the contracts and the phase that we have.
Yes, thanks, Luis. Really nice to, I think it's very important to know how it works ahead of time. I know for myself, coming from the States, a temp agency was something that you don't hear about that much or don't hear positive things about. And I got here and every role is done by a recruitment agency. You're always talking to a recruiter from an agency. And that was very surprising to me. So it's definitely good to know that that's a normal way of working here. And actually that it can really work in your benefit. Like Luis said, we can really help along the way. And also help with that last step, which is hiring and the contract. Of course, that's the whole point, because why would you go to all that effort if you're not going to try to find a job in the end? but it's also nice to know then what you're signing for and how that works here in the Netherlands. So we're going to go over that a bit and try to help you have some things to hold on to help you when you get to that stage as well. So the Netherlands is actually known for having a great work-life balance as well, and they create lots of laws and legislation to make sure that that's possible for all of the workers, no matter what type of contract. But there are lots of different types of contracts, so that's what we're going to go into now, to sort of a crash course in Dutch labor law. Where you don't have to be the experts in that. That's what we do as recruiters and a recruitment agency. But it's always good to have an idea so that when you get a contract presented to you, you have an idea of if it fits with the market, if it fits with how the way of working is here in the Netherlands, all of that. So first of all, temporary versus permanent contracts. That's pretty self-explanatory, I think. One is temporary, one is permanent. But it's good to know that most companies will start with a temporary contract, even if they are planning on having you work there forever and they really love you and the interview clicked. I know I've had some candidates in the past who thought that was strange, that it worked so well and everyone was happy, and then they were offered a short-term contract and they saw that as a very strange sign, since they thought it was a long-term agreement. And it is, but most companies will still start with a temporary contract. So just be aware of that. It will usually start with a temporary contract. Part of that is because of the period and chain system. That's what it's called. That's the friendly name for how it works with contracts in the Netherlands. The period and chain system is there to make sure that workers are protected, so that you are able to work forward in your career and work towards a permanent contract and not always be in the temporary space, unless you choose to be. The way this works it typically is that there's a rule, it's called the 3x3 rule, that you can have up to 3 contracts within up to 3 years with the same company. So if you get offered a year contract at a company, then they can still offer you 2 more contracts before they have to offer you a permanent contract. This is really good to protect you so that you can start on the temporary contract and then move towards the permanent contract. It's also good to know in case a company, you've been working there for a while and they try to offer you a 5th contract within 3 years, that's not allowed. Or if you've already been working there for 3 years and they offer you another temporary contract, that's also not allowed. So that's good to know that this is in place. Another thing to know about is the length and type. So some types of contracts, you have a direct contract with a company. So if you talk to the corporate recruiter, for instance, and you talk to the hiring manager, you start directly at a company through your network, for instance, then you can get hired directly at the company. Also, like Louise was saying, there are some agencies who only do the employment side, so they'll provide the temporary jobs. There are other agencies like Untouchables who do both direct placement and temporary employment. So what that means is that also through Untouchables, depending on what the client wants, then you can also get a direct contract. It just depends on the role. You can also have a contract via an agency. I will talk a little bit more about that in detail in a moment, because there are some more details about that are good to know. We're not going to cover much about this today, but there is also an option to work self-employed. Like Louise said, there are some freelance agencies who can help with that. And also you can arrange that yourself. In that case, you're not working on an employment contract as an employee, but you're working on a service contract that you discuss with the client where you will be working. So that's a slightly different way of working. We're not going to cover that too much today, but just know that that also exists here in the Netherlands and is a potential option. When it comes to length, as I mentioned, your first contract will most often be temporary, and maybe even the first couple of contracts. It also most often includes a trial period. A trial period is just a period of time that's quite flexible for both you and the employer to decide whether or not it's a good fit. Sometimes it looks really good in the interview and you get into the team and you think, this is not actually where I want to be. Then within the notice period, or the trial periods, excuse me, you can still exit your contract without any issues. And the company can do the same. The typical amount of time for that in the Netherlands is 1 month, but it can range from 0. So if you have a contract that's under 6 months, you won't have a trial period. It's not allowed. or it can be up to 2 months of a trial period if you have a longer contract. So that's also good to know, also nice to know for yourself that it's possible that you have that time to think about things as well. Hopefully you're super excited about the job, but if you're ever doubting but still want to give it a try, that trial period can be a beneficial part of the process. And good to know as well is that usually there's a growth path involved, at least in working from temporary to permanent. And not always, of course, because also, as Louise said, there are plenty of temporary positions that remain temporary positions if you're filling in for someone who's on maternity leave, or if it's a project-based position. But typically, and especially with the roles that we work with that are more long-term, usually you grow through the temporary contracts to the permanent within that chain system. So the idea is usually, and sometimes companies will even have this outlined when you sign the contract. They might even be able to tell you what the expected growth path is, and that you'll start with a shorter contract, maybe 7 months, 6 to 7 months, and then move on to a longer contract, and then a permanent contract is a quite common schedule that you can expect. But you can also ask about this once you're at the point of signing a contract. You can always ask what the expectation will be when it comes to that. Now, moving on to talk a little bit more about contracts, since that's why we're here. When it comes to temporary contracts, like we already mentioned a bit, you can have very simply a temporary contract can be agreed upon with any company. So like I said, it's a limited period of time. That can be with an agency or a company. And that's the only thing, is it's a limited period of time or amount of hours or a specific project that you agree to be part of. If you work through an agency, there are a few different versions of temporary contracts, so I will get into that. One thing that you need to know is that when you sign a contract with an agency, you'll be working at their client, so at a user company is what we call that. And so your manager and team will be there. That's also, like Louise mentioned, that's where you'll go to interviews once we've done the first in-depth interview. Then you go, you discuss with the team. So you find your team there, and the administration will go through the agency. So you'll be working usually on location at the user company, but the administration goes through the agency. One of the reasons that a lot of companies do this, and that can be nice for you as a candidate as well, is that it allows for more flexibility for longer. When we talked about the period and chain system, that's a maximum of 3 years that you have for temporary. With an agency, that gets stretched to 4 years. So you have 1 more year to check things out a little bit. And then you might ask, why would I want to stay temporary for longer? One thing is, it becomes more stable as you go. So it's not that the whole time you're completely flexible. You get more stability as you go along, which I'll talk about with this phase system. But also one of the big reasons is that companies often prefer it. There are a lot of different reasons why companies may need temporary workers, or at least for workers to be on temporary contracts or agency contracts. And it's often better for them to have more time for that, which is better for you as well, because then you're able to get into the company. You have more time to present yourself as well, and you're gaining stability along the way. Many companies will do this, for instance, for headcount, or because they might not have the ability to hire directly at that time, but they would still like to have you in the team. So it's definitely not a negative thing, but it is good to know that that's how that works. And that it can be in your favor, even though it sounds like longer temporary might not sound like what you're looking for. Remember that temporary in the Netherlands is quite normal, and usually the first 3 to 4 years of your career at a given company anyway. So before we get into this phase system and what the contracts are within the recruitment agency side, it's also good to know what the ABU and NBBU are. I don't know if anyone has ever heard of these. Kudos if you have. What it is, the ABU is the Dutch Federation of Private Employment Agencies, and the NBBU is linked with that. So basically what they are they are agencies that make sure that the agencies are doing what they're supposed to. So they're ensuring that your rights are being met as a temporary worker, that you're gaining the stability that you need to. They also go and fight for legislation that makes it so that temporary workers are getting what they want and need, and that their rights are being met. And that is also what we as recruitment recruiters also have to be aware of, are what the rules are and what the rights are of temporary workers. So if you work with an agency, then you should always check to see if they are part of the ABU or the NBBU, because that means that they are required to keep up with those rights and laws and make sure that you're getting the best treatment possible. Untouchables is a member of the ABU. So that's good to know. The other thing that they do is they have their own collective labor agreement, CLA, and in there are where all of the rights are determined. So you can also always check that if you're working as a temporary worker. You can check the ABU CLA to see what your rights are and what you should be expecting to get from your contract and from your agency contract. Okay, so going into the phase system, we won't go too deeply into this because, as Louise knows, you can study this for hours because it's all sorts of Dutch legislation and things that you need to know, but we'll keep it nice and simple, the things you need to know as a worker. So the phase system starts with phase A, or if you're working with an NBBU agency, phase 1 to 2. This is the most flexible phase. So that's like what I was talking about, that it builds up in stability as you go. Phase A is the most flexible, both for the candidate and for the client company where you're working. So in phase A, the candidate or the client can end the agreement at any time. This is quite different than a normal temporary contract, because usually in a normal temporary contract, you will have agreed upon a notice period, which is usually 1 month. In phase A, that notice period is not there for either party. So if you decide, hey, I'm done with this job, you don't have to come back the next day. Where with a typical temporary contract, you would have to come back for the next month until your contract and your notice period was done. Same for the client, although in the interest of the candidate, once you've worked there for 6 months, 26 weeks in phase A, then the client does have to give you 10 days of notice. So that's quite nice and in favor of the worker, because then you still remain able to stop at a day's notice, and the client has to give you more notice. So that's good to know. Phase A lasts about a year, usually 52 worked weeks. And after a year, then it is required that the agency offers you a bit more stability. Often this takes the form of a phase B contract then. One more thing about phase A is that often in phase A, you'll also have what's called an on-call contract. So either you will have hours defined in your contract, so you know that you work Monday from 9 to 5 and Tuesday from 9 to 5, and it's all laid out in there, or you will have a contract that tells you approximately how many hours, but that you will be called in for those hours. So that's good to know as well, that will be listed in your contract. You can also always ask the recruiter you're working with if it's an on-call contract or a defined contract, because that's good to know for how your hours work. One other thing about phase A is that in phase A, you get paid for the hours you work and not for the hours you don't work. So if you've been at work, then great, your hours get covered. If you aren't at work, then your hours don't get covered. So that's good to know as well. In phase B, that's a bit different. In phase B will always have a defined end date and hours, and therefore also continued payment of wages. So you know that you're supposed to have a 40-hour work week. That's part of your contract as well. There's also a notice period in phase B, so you no longer have that you can, at the drop of a hat, be done with your contract. In phase B, you'll have a notice period, or sometimes you don't even have a notice period. If your contract is short enough, or if you have agreed to have no notice period, then you just have to continue your contract until it's done. So that's also good to know. Within phase B, you sort of have a mini period and chain system, if you remember from the previous slide. Within phase B, that also can last up to 3 years, and you can have 6 contracts within phase B. So there's a bit more flexibility, also because sometimes you may be working with an agency where you work at different clients, and then you have more options to work the same position but different places. So you can have up to 6 contracts within 3 years within the phase system. And then finally, as you can see, the stability has been building up. Phase C is actually a permanent contract, but phase C is a permanent contract with an agency. This is not all agencies offer this, because what this means is that you're an employee of the agency, And this works often very well for specific areas of expertise or areas that where there's a lot of need. So for instance, warehouse and logistics, this often happens, or medical, nursing, things like that. Then what will happen is an agency will take you on with a permanent contract, and then they will continue to send you out to new places, for instance, if you're a nurse, maybe to a new hospital every couple of years or every few months, but your contract is permanent, so your stability and your benefits remain the same. That's good to know because not every agency has that. So many agencies will just work up through phase A, phase B, and then you will get taken over by the company where you've been working, or things like that. The reason that some agencies don't do this is because if you work too much in a niche, like we at Undutchables, we may not always have a good position to send you to if the client company stops with the project. So that's something good to know. But good to know if you come across an agency that does do that, that you can work through all of the phases. If you have an agency that's more specialist than or more that doesn't have as many of the same type of roles all the time, then likely they will work through phase A, phase B. And good for you to know is that often, at least with the companies that we work with, you will work through some temporary contracts before eventually getting a contract directly with the company. That's often the goal also. Like I said, companies for many different reasons will work with agencies and work with temporary contracts. I've had people who have started with the company within 6 months of starting on their temporary agency, and also people who've done it after running out the full 4-year course. So just be aware that all of those things are possible, and you can keep contact with your recruiter and your manager at the company as you go through the phases as well. So feel like I'm talking a lot. I know I see some questions coming in as well, so we'll try to get to your questions at the end. Don't worry.
I'm already writing down some questions here, so in case we finish, we already have some things.
Perfect. Thanks. Louise is on top of it. Excellent.
Thank you for sending, guys. A lot of interesting questions.
Yeah, definitely. I hope we can get to as many as possible, and otherwise we can always have contact afterwards to cover the ones that we don't get to cover today. So, but keep sending them. Feel free. Then in the meantime, I will tell you some more about the benefits. So now we've gone over the nitty-gritty of all of how it works with contracts. Let's talk a little bit more about benefits. This is the fun part, of course, when you sign your contract and find out all of the nice perks that you have coming along. And it's also good to know that secondary benefits vary quite a bit between countries. So it's very good to know ahead of time what is quite normal in the Netherlands and what you can expect, and also what you can ask for. The general benefits in the Netherlands, of course, everyone will have the primary benefits. So you'll discuss when you have interviews and you are going to sign a contract, you'll discuss what your salary, hours, etc. will be. But then you also have secondary benefits that are more optional and extra. When it comes to secondary benefits, there are some that are legally required. So no matter what position you have, whether it's with an agency, directly with the company, anything, they will always be part of your contract. So we'll go over those. There are also some that are not legally required, but are quite common, and companies may do them, but with slight variations. There are also a few benefits that are available only after a certain time of working. So you build up the right to be able to do that. And there are some that are only there as benefits of a permanent contract. To be honest, though, the ones that are for a permanent contract, the biggest difference is the stability. As far as benefits go, usually the benefits of a permanent contract are the same as a temporary contract, besides that it's indefinite, so you're there forever. The biggest difference is how difficult it is for your company to let you go. Once you have a permanent contract, they really have to have a very good reason to let you go. You as the worker can always use your notice period and leave the company if you want, but for the company to get rid of you is quite difficult once you have a permanent contract. This is also one of the reasons why companies build up, because they really want to make sure that it's a good fit by the time they offer someone a permanent contract. But that's the biggest difference between a permanent contract and a temporary contract when it comes to secondary benefits. Some companies will also offer you different benefits as extra initiatives when you get to a permanent contract, but that's just purely a company choice. Typically, the majority of the time, the benefits will remain the same unless you negotiate something different. But then you know that you're safe and you can't get fired, basically, which is Nice thing to know.
Yeah.
So the ones that are legally required. First of all, there's the minimum wage. Most countries have a minimum wage. The minimum wage in the Netherlands as of July 1st, so coming up, will be 13 euros and 68 cents per hour. So no matter what type of job you're doing, this is the minimum wage. Unless you're under 21, then there's a slight difference in that. But this for most positions and everyone over age 21, it's 13.68. The holiday pay, I saw that we just had a question about holiday pay and also about age, so hopefully this answers some of that. Holiday pay is actually a legally required benefit, which is that every May or June, you get 8% of your yearly salary paid out as an extra benefit. So it's on top of your yearly salary. So basically you have a yearly salary plus 8% that you will get usually paid out in May or June. Some companies pay it out in smaller installments throughout the year, but everyone has a right to this. And actually, if you work as with an agency, if you're like a temporary worker with an agency contract, like we just talked about, then the requirement is even higher because of the collective labor agreement of the ABU. So then it's 8.33%. So really, this is just nice. The Dutch love their holidays because, as you can see, the next benefit is vacation days. Everyone is legally required to have 4 times the weekly hours that they work. They have to have that many vacation days hours in a year. So for most people, if you work full time, for instance, then this is automatically 20 days. If you typically work 5 days a week, then you automatically have 20 vacation days legally required. So as you can tell from this, the Dutch love their vacations, so they love to have the time for the vacation, and the holiday pay makes it so that you can go on vacation. So it's actually a really nice benefit just simply of working in the Netherlands, no matter what company you're working at. Another good thing to know is that the Netherlands has very good sick leave legal requirements. So you just have a right to be sick here in the Netherlands. You also have a right to maternity and parental leave, quite a bit actually. Maternity leave is up to or a minimum of 16 weeks, and parental leave can really be up to 6 months. Not all of that is paid, but you have quite a few options when it comes to those things, whether you are mother, father, whichever of the parents you are, you have all sorts of options. So that's really nice. And you also automatically participate in social insurances. That's also a requirement. But this is also nice because this helps with the sick leave and the other types of leave that you can have, and also retirement, things like that. So these are all legally required. So no matter what level or what type of contract you're stepping into, this will be the case. Something that are optional but common are travel cost compensation. So for instance, your travel to get to and from work is often compensated. Usually it can go up to about 23 cents per kilometer. And that's what a company can offer you that's tax-free, tax deductible, or sometimes they can also offer free travel with public transportation to support the environment. That's also a very common benefit. However, be aware it's not a required benefit. So while companies do have some of these initiatives that help for that, it's not required, but it is very common. I see it quite often with companies, and then they vary in how much they compensate or how many kilometers, how many cents per kilometer, things like that. Another common one is some kind of 13th month or an end of the year, sort of like what you could see as an end of the year bonus, but it's something you can count on every year. Some companies do this. Not every company does this, but if your company does it, it's a really nice perk. ATV days, these are days that are basically extra vacation days. In general, companies can offer you extra vacation days, and ATV days are often extra on top of that. Sometimes they have a schedule where you have to take one per month, something like that. So you'll see that in your contract or in your employee handbook, but that's also a nice perk. Most companies will have a bonus structure of some kind, especially for commercial roles. Of course, depending on the type of role that you're in, a bonus might not apply to your role, but in the commercial roles, especially sales, there will often be bonus structures. A lot of companies also have compensation for if you work irregular hours. So if you're doing shifts or weekend work or holiday work, that there's an extra percentage that comes on top of your normal hourly salary. A really good one to mention that is optional but common is the hybrid work option. We've seen this really expand a lot in the last few years, which is great. I love it. The option to go to the office and work with colleagues, and also go home and really focus and be in the zone. But do be aware that this is not required. Not every company is on board with this. Not every company has the options for this. So you do really want to make sure that expectations are agreed upon ahead of time, that you know how many days you'll need to be in the office, if it's possible to work from home, if you will have the resources you need to work from home, because this is not a required benefit to have. So it's good to discuss. Something else that can be a really nice thing is that some companies will do education reimbursement. So if you have to do a course or something for the role that you're in, if that's required by the company, then the company will completely cover that, and they need to allow you hours to complete that as well. But if you, for instance, want to go back and do a master's degree, or study something else, or do a different course that you're interested in, you can also, in many companies, they have an option to also get that at least partially reimbursed. Not every company has this, but you can see once you join the company if there's an option for that as well. Also, many companies provide lunch, so that's nice to know. And what a new thing is also a lot of companies are offering flexible benefits. What this means is they'll have sort of like a multiple choice menu, and you can choose what you want and how you want the benefits to be in there. So some people might choose, okay, I want to use my benefits for a gym membership and also having a bigger lunch at the office. And other people might say, I don't care about lunch at the office, but I do want an extra day off, and I don't need the gym, but I would like to have a budget for childcare, something like that. There's all sorts of options. Companies can put it together how they want, and it's of course limited once you're in the company with what options they provide. But that can be a nice option because not every person within a company cares about the same benefits, so it can be nice to get to choose your own. When it comes to things that are not common, Louise and I were talking about this coming not from the Netherlands. There's some things that you might expect, but that aren't as common, or at least not to be expected. A car and mobile phone, for instance, this depends on your role, because if you're a traveling salesperson, then this is quite common to have a lease car and a phone that you can use. And many companies will still choose to offer this, but it's not something that you should expect. Unless it's applicable to your role. And if it's important to you, that's definitely something that you should discuss ahead of time. And also health insurance. I know in the States, this is health insurance is usually linked to your employer and run by your employer. Here, it's the opposite. You are responsible for having health insurance when you're living and working in the Netherlands, but you're also responsible for arranging it yourself. Some employers will have an agreement with a certain insurance company so that you can get a percentage off or things like that. And we did hear from our HR experts that this is becoming more popular for companies to want to offer this as an extra perk. But just be aware that that's what it is. It's a growing extra perk in the Netherlands, not a given. So know that when you look in your contract and don't see anything about health insurance, that is why. And a couple that are available after a certain time working. There's a law that actually allows you to request different working hours and location after you've worked for 26 weeks. So if you've worked for 26 weeks is about 6 months. Once you've worked for that amount of time, you have the right to send in a request to your employer if you would like to work different hours, if you'd like to work at a different location. This can also have to do with hybrid working. So if you've been working for 6 months and you would like to try some hybrid, you can request it. And they have to take the request seriously. They don't always have to grant it because it's not always possible. If you say, I don't want to come into the office ever anymore, and you're the receptionist, that probably won't work because they need you to be the face of the company, or they might not have other people to do that. So it's not always possible to get what you're asking for, but it is definitely possible to ask for it. That's protected by law. So that's quite a nice thing to know about. Another thing that can often come in after a certain time of working is the bonus scheme. I know it's the same at Untouchables. Once you have worked for a while, then you start participating in the bonus scheme as well. This also often correlates with temporary contracts. So if you make it through a first contract and both parties decide, hey, this is still working, we're going to continue, then that's often when some benefits will take place as well, like a bonus scheme, for instance. Or working from home. What we see a lot is that working from home is allowed after training. So a lot of companies will want to do training, or the majority of training, on site with the manager. And then once you feel comfortable and self-sufficient, then it's possible to work from home. So This is, of course, not an exhaustive list. There are many more benefits. And the nice thing about the Netherlands and that honest communication style is you can negotiate if you would like, if there's certain things that you want or need. Then you can always discuss that. And you can also, if you're working with a recruiter, discuss what would work to discuss with that specific company. You can ask for their advice. But this gives you kind of a general idea of things that we often see working with the companies and candidates that we work with.
Yeah, because one of the most important things also for you guys to understand is you must know what you're signing up. You must, before signing your contract, take a good look on it. Go through it, negotiate, ask questions. You can also, in case you get a contract in Dutch, for example, you can always request and ask if your employer can translate that. For sure, it's not mandatory, but to give a good faith and to have a good connection, probably they're going to do that. You can also try to schedule a meeting with your HR to go through it, to make sure that you know what you're signing in, because once you sign it, you have responsibility, you have the rights, for sure, a lot of good rights, but you also have a lot of rules to follow, commitment, responsibilities. So it's important that you know what you're signing in. And so today we try to cover everything. I know that maybe it was a little bit overwhelming for you guys, but we did our best to cover everything from the recruitment agencies, how to apply, contracts, benefits, and everything. For sure, this webinar going to be saved on YouTube. So after, in case you get your contract and you say, I remember this term, you can always go back there, take a look in the webinar, pause, come back again. And in case you need support, we are here to help you guys for sure.
Yes, definitely. Exactly what Louise said. It's a lot of information. We know that we also just threw a lot of terms at you and things like that. So don't worry. It took us a while to get used to it too. But it's always nice to have heard it before you end up in a meeting with your employer and think, oh no, what am I allowed to do? Am I allowed to negotiate? How does this work? It's always good to be a little bit more prepared and feel confident going into that. So speaking of feeling confident, I know that we have a lot of questions and we have about 7 more minutes. So let's see how we can boost your confidence by answering your questions.
Yeah, I already separated some here.
Excellent.
It was a lot of questions about holidays. I know you guys want to go on holidays, yeah? There's a lot of questions, but I think Albert covered everything. If you guys have any other questions, just put it there. But I think she covered, most of it. And one of you guys asked about if you could schedule a call with one of the recruiters of Untouchables to go through questions and everything. We have events for this. You guys can walk in the office. We help you with your CV. We give a little bit of consultancy. So always stay tuned for that. But also as I said in the beginning, our number is in the job description. If you're interested in a role or something, you can always call us. We can have a quick chat. That's not a problem at all. Okay. Also about the Dutch languages. So some people asking if Dutch language is a deal breaker to find a job in the Netherlands. Not for Untouchables, because our focus is internationals. So mostly of our clients, they look for people who are non-Dutch speakers. Some of them request a little bit, at least for internal communication, because some companies, they are fully internationals, but some companies, they are becoming internationals now. So the whole team is Dutch, but they look for German, for French, for Spanish, for whatever nationality is it. So it's important that at least if you are coming to the Netherlands, it's always cool to start learning the language, know the basics, but at Untouchables, know that you are super safe. About the visa situation, I saw some questions about that as well. Depend on the clients. Some of our clients, they request that you must have a visa to start working, some not. So it's important, as I said in the beginning, take a look in the job description. Mostly we put this information there if the client requests visa or not. I also saw some questions. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I was going to add about the visa. You can also check on the IND website. The IND is the authority over visas here in the Netherlands. You can also check their website. They have a list of employers who are able to sponsor visas. Of course, that doesn't always mean that they will, because you have to have a click. But that's a great place to start when you're building your LinkedIn network, is to look through there and think, okay, I need a visa. These people are capable of providing it. Let's see where we can find the click. That's a good place to start. Because as an agency, we don't always have control over that, because it depends on what our clients are willing and open for. But there are a lot of companies. It's a really long list, so don't be overwhelmed. But it's a great place to start, and that's a great place to take a look, so that you can be in contact with people who are going to be able to help you with that visa situation.
Yes. That's true. Good one. I saw someone asking also about IT roles. Yeah, we cover everything. We have also IT roles for sure. We don't separate by sector or industry. We separate by language skill. So if there is a role for English speaker, IT or German, or whatever is it, we are there. But it's not we are not niche IT, but for sure we can support IT candidates as well. Is there any question that you want to go on, Aubrey?
Let's see, I was looking through them as well. I've been adding some things to the chat because I saw some questions about providing the website, and I also see a lot of questions for, hey, how do I talk to a recruiter? How do I get in contact? I put the email address in there as well. It's now quite a bit further up, but the email is just recruitment@untouchables.nl, and then you can mention that you are in this webinar, that you heard from Aubrey and Louise, and that you're interested in learning a bit more about specific things. It usually helps our team if you can put your specific questions in there so that they know how to help you and can help you figure that out. On that same thing, I see that there's a question, do you have walk-in hours or days? Yes, definitely. Those are actually posted on the website. We have specific moments when that's possible. If that time doesn't work for you, you can always reach out to the team and find out if there's another moment when you can stop by as well. And if you happen to be walking by and you see that our lights are on, then of course you can see if anyone is available and walk on in, so don't worry. As far as other question goes.
Yeah, and you guys can also connect with us on LinkedIn as well. Here's our name, so you can always connect with us. We're gonna do our best. Last webinar, I got more than 100 messages. I took a while, but I respond everyone. So just wait a minute, and I can be sure that I will come back to you.
Yes. I'm looking to see if there's any other. I see that we have lots of questions. We really appreciate your participation. So I think some of them may have been answered along the way. Let's see. I see that some people are asking indeed more about the visas. And that is always a little bit of a tricky one indeed, because that can be quite specific to your situation. So I would say if you have a visa question, feel free to send it either to recruitment@untouchables.nl or aubrey@untouchables.nl. I've answered quite a few visa questions in my time. Not an expert, like I said, because the IND is the authority. So we always make sure that you know that we're not in charge of visas, but we do know quite a bit from all of our working with international workers. So if you have a question, I see some questions about the highly skilled migrant visa, and the 30% ruling, things like that. Please go ahead and send that to me, and I will try to give you more detailed information and some websites that can help you along in your search for that. Are you seeing any other questions, Louise, or does anyone want to add questions?
Someone is asking if we are looking the Q&A. For sure, it's what we are doing at the moment. But there's so many questions we are trying to go through and fill up everything. But someone asking if we accept Nigerians. We accept everyone: Nigerians, Brazilians, Portuguese, Africans. Everyone is welcome at Untouchables for sure. Let me see. Yeah, I think we covered.
I'm also answering some things in the chat, so everyone knows.
Yeah. And please find me a job soon. Help us, we help you. Come to us, fill up all your information, participate of the events, prepare yourself, and for sure you can get your job.
Yes, definitely. Let's see. I see a question about salary negotiations and age criteria. The quick question to age criteria is there is no age criteria. Like I said, the minimum wage is different above 21 because under that is often there's a difference for teenage workers, for instance. But there's no age discrimination in the Netherlands. So there's also no max age. So that's good to know as well. And as an agency, we specifically participate in not being discriminatory. So that's great. I think, yes. And let's see. Oh, the salary negotiations, they go very Dutch, so often very direct. Sometimes you can also do that via your recruiter. So that also works because they have a relationship, and then they will do that. Usually the company will tell you if you're asking for too much. There is such a thing as being too pushy, even in the Netherlands. So that's a good thing to know as well. But there's a lot to be said for just saying what you're looking for and having a reasonable discussion with your hiring manager. I see that we have lots of questions, but it's 5 o'clock. I see that we also have lots of questions in the Q&A. Feel free to send those through. We're going to also try to answer these afterwards, get some more answers to you on our site. So keep an eye on that and on the email that's coming your direction. I guess we'll just finish with thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your participation. Please, if your message did not get answered, don't worry. We have a lot of information on our site, and we're going to try to send that to you next week. We'll be sending you the recording and the slides. If we can, we'll send you some more answers to some of those questions that we didn't get to during the Q&A as well. So feel free to reach out to us. And of course, like Louise said, connect with us on LinkedIn. Start your Dutch network today. And thank you all for being here. Hope you have a lovely day.
Yeah, and stay tuned for the next webinar. We wait for you.
Yes.
Bye-bye, guys. Enjoy your weekend.
Have a nice evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.